she'd spent most of her life traveling the world.
She grew up in Nigeria, spent some time in Thailand.
Until she found the man of her dreams.
He was in the military.
He's a man of honor. He's a man of discipline.
She was in love.
She moved to the U.S. They got married, and then she got pregnant.
They're building a life together.
But it comes to a horrific end.
Houston police.
We found a dead body in a refrigerator.
There were multiple stab wounds.
That's going to haunt them the rest of their lives.
The gruesome discovery launches a frantic search.
Time is ticking.
The police put out an Amber Alert.
They're worried about that child.
Where's the baby? Who has the baby?
But are the police the only ones searching?
To speak with the federales.
Why flee to Mexico?
He didn't tell me his full name.
He said he feared for his son's life.
She was tied up in an organized criminal ring.
I call him the Nigerian Mafia.
December 8, 2014. It's 2 weeks after Thanksgiving in Houston, Texas, a metropolis of just over 7 million people.
Houston is such a big, vast city. You could literally drive 1 hour and still be in Houston.
The good news is if you move here, you can reach out the window and not touch your neighbor's house.
But the property manager of one townhome community is learning that even in this sprawling city, things can still be too close for comfort.
Her phone has been ringing all day.
There were some complaints about a smell.
Neighbors would be walking around, and the smell is getting stronger and stronger. They've had enough.
The source seems to be a townhouse leased to Anastasia Owakina Lambert, an immigrant from Nigeria.
Houston is one of the most diverse cities in the United States.
We have people from Africa, people from Europe, people come from all over the world, and so it does give it more of a multicultural atmosphere.
The manager tries to contact Anna, but the call goes to voicemail.
The manager wonders if maybe Anastasia is out of town.
Did they forget to clean out their fridge? Is it leftover food?
After all, it's only a couple of weeks after Thanksgiving.
That appears to be the case when the manager and maintenance man enter the apartment, trying to track down the source of the smell.
When they try the light switch, it appears that the power has been shut off.
Think about the last time you lost electricity and all that stuff in the freezers and the fridge went bad.
The maintenance man thinks it's a Thanksgiving turkey that had rotted away.
And the smell does appear to be coming from the refrigerator.
"27-year-old Anastasia Owakina Lambert had seen a lot of the world before putting down roots in Houston.
Anna came from Nigeria, and she went to Thailand for schooling.
Anna enrolled at a university in Bangkok to get a degree in multimedia journalism.
Her hope and her dream was to be on a television station and a host on her own show.
In 2012, while studying in Thailand, Anna met a former American serviceman named Patrick Lambert online.
Patrick was 10 years older than Anna, and he was living in Hawaii.
He talked a lot about how he was in the military.
The fact that he was a veteran really impressed Anna.
He's a man of honor. He's a man of discipline. He's a man that wants to serve other people because he wants to serve his country.
Patrick was equally impressed with Anna.
Anna was a fantastic person. She was generous, she was kind, she was loving.
And what started as an online friendship quickly became something more.
They fell in love.
She was sure he was the man for her.
She was in love and she was excited.
So when Patrick asked Anastasia to move to America for him, she said yes.
She moves to Hawaii.
Not long after arriving in Hawaii, Patrick proposed, and they got married.
She wanted to be married, and she kind of had those traditional values.
Now armed with a green card from U.S. immigration, Anna was ready to take the world by storm.
The interview, it was perfect.
She'd already had her mind set on her goals because her dream was to have her own TV show.
You have no idea how much I want this job.
She got jobs in the publishing world. She worked for a web hosting company. She was really getting her foot in the door.
But for a while, she still felt like something was missing.
Even though she had her husband, she had goals, she had dreams, she wanted family.
And in 2013, that dream became reality.
She got pregnant with their son.
She was thrilled to become a mother, and they were so excited to start a family.
Soon after their son was born, the family moved to Houston.
Anna and the baby went first.
Houston has a large Nigerian population. So while it may be a foreign city to her, it's also a little bit of home.
On the southwest side of Houston, you do have a lot of stores, churches, eateries in that area that are specific for those who are Nigerian.
It was easy to adjust.
Patrick followed a few months later, and the family was reunited.
They had a 1-year-old son. Anna was hardworking. She has come from Nigeria. She came from nothing. She went to Thailand, got schooling, came to America. I mean, she's living the American dream.
But now, after multiple complaints from her neighbors, Anna's property manager and the maintenance man are investigating a pungent smell coming from her condo.
She tried calling Anna, but her phone went straight to voicemail.
The neighbors were wondering, God, what is going on there?
But inside, there appears to be a simple explanation.
When she tries to turn on the lights, it's clear the power has been shut off.
And the smell is coming from the refrigerator.
He thinks it's a Thanksgiving turkey, and it was a very strong, pungent smell.
It was so rancid that the maintenance man had to put on a mask and some gloves.
Then he opens the door.
They're overcome. It's like a wave hitting you.
Obviously, he realizes it's not a turkey.
It's coming from a dead body.
By December of 2014, it looked as if Nigerian immigrant Anastasia Owakina Lambert was well on her way to realizing the American dream.
Anna, her husband Patrick, and their young son had relocated to Houston.
She's in a new city, making new friends, at her new job.
She was very successful. She was doing really well here.
But now, Anna's property manager and the maintenance man have made a horrifying discovery in her kitchen.
There's a grown woman stuffed in a refrigerator, just as if somebody went deer hunting and put their kill in a fridge to keep it on ice.
But since the apartment's power was cut off, the body was badly decomposed.
The smell of death is not a smell that you can get out of your mind. It's a smell that you'll always remember.
That's going to haunt them the rest of their lives.
As soon as she recovers her composure, the building manager immediately calls 911.
Houston Fire Medical, what is your emergency?
We found a dead body in a refrigerator.
Although it's a dead body, it doesn't quite register with the 911 operator.
Okay, we can start the CPR and I can tell you what to do until help arrives.
That dead body's been probably there, I don't know how long.
Is it smelly?
Yes.
Okay, we do have help on the way.
The 911 operator dispatches both the coroner and homicide detectives to their location.
When the police arrive, they restore the power, then make sure no one else is inside.
There's not a lot of things out of place. Nothing to show that it was some sort of burglary or a robbery.
There was no forced entry.
But there are blood stains.
Most of the blood appears to be in the master bedroom.
There's some blood stains on the sheets on the bed. We believe that's where she is killed.
How the victim was killed becomes obvious once the coroner's team begins the grim task of removing the body from the refrigerator.
There were multiple stab wounds to the neck. Obviously, that was the cause of her death.
Not 10, not 12, multiple stab wounds to the neck area, over and over and over again.
It was almost 20 times. That's overkill.
The nature of the wounds may also tell detectives something about the killer's motive.
A knife attack is going to be a very personal attack.
When you stab someone, you are also feeling the effect of the stab in your arm, in your hand. And you can hear it, you can see it, and it's a feeling, right? It is a very close type of heinous crime.
It was a violent killing.
Then, once she was dead, the killer had hidden her body.
The killer took all of the shelves out and placed her in the refrigerator.
Placing the body inside the refrigerator, it preserves it. It slows down the decomposition process.
Or it would have if the power hadn't been shut off.
Eventually, that refrigerator door could not stop the stench.
But is the body in the refrigerator Anastasia? When the detectives turn to the apartment manager, she's not certain.
I can't really say. She was unrecognizable.
Given the condition of the body, it will take DNA or dental records for a positive ID.
However, the manager is able to tell detectives that Anna is married and has a son.
How old is the little boy?
Can't be no more than a year old.
She hadn't realized Anna was married until Patrick showed up several months after moving in.
They moved here from Hawaii, so I guess he was there wrapping things up.
Do you have a number for him?
No, I don't have a number for him, but I do have Anna's number.
Still, there may be a way for the detectives to track down Patrick.
The police put out an Amber Alert with Patrick Lambert and a picture of his son.
They're worried about the welfare of the child, and Patrick is obviously a person that they want to talk to.
In investigations where a spouse is killed, the investigators look at the person that's closest to them, which in this case is going to be the husband.
At this point, they really have no idea how this happened. They just know that there's this body in the fridge.
Could he be dead too? Or is he a suspect?
All the detectives can do is hope that the Amber Alert leads them to Patrick and the missing child.
Amber Alerts, they can generate tips. Sometimes they're false, but occasionally they come through.
But will it pay off this time?
Somebody called in saying they thought they had seen Patrick.
And they give a location.
Not only was Patrick alive, he was at a house only a few miles from the crime scene.
Let's go.
Detectives investigating the murder of 27-year-old Anastasia Oakina Lambert have just received a tip that her husband, Patrick Lambert, is still in the city.
Where was this?
Someone called in response to the Amber Alert and said Anna's husband was at a house a couple of miles away.
So the officers went to that home.
Hey, let's go, man. We got Patrick.
And when the detectives knock on the door, a man answers.
Patrick Lambert?
He looked strikingly like Patrick Lambert.
But it sure isn't Patrick.
He was cooperative. He showed them his ID.
It's simply a case of mistaken identity.
This poor guy happens to match Patrick's description.
He doesn't have a clue who Anna is. He doesn't have an idea of what's gone on.
Have a good night. You too.
It's a disappointing outcome for the detectives.
You almost have to start over and recommit your efforts to see what you can find, but you keep working.
And later that evening, they get another call into the tip line.
And this caller, they're telling the detectives, are you sure you've identified the right person?
Because the caller claims that Anna is still alive.
The detectives are caught off guard by this.
Is it possible the body in the refrigerator isn't Anna?
The medical examiner has yet to confirm the body's identity.
This caller then tells them, well, I work with Anna. She was at work with me yesterday.
When the detectives contact the grocery store where the caller works, they confirm that a woman named Anna Owakina Lambert does work at that store.
But the address that the store has on file for her isn't where Anna lived.
Somebody is using her identity. Obviously, that's suspicious.
Hoping to get to the bottom of it, detectives head to the mystery woman's address.
They speak to her. She's very cooperative.
Her name is Jacqueline Afia.
Like Anna, Jacqueline is also from Nigeria.
Is that how you know Anna?
Sorta. We met in Thailand.
Turns out that Anna and Jacqueline went to the same college in Thailand.
We were both studying communications, and since we're both Nigerian, we just started hanging out.
If you find someone that has the same interests as you, it helps you adjust or to acclimate to wherever you are.
They became close, but had lost touch after graduation.
She went to Hawaii, and I ended up here.
But she says that about a year ago, they reconnected.
They're talking about their family, their life.
She was talking about leaving Hawaii.
She's like, if you come here, I got you. You can stay with me.
So in return, Anna had done a favor for Jacqueline.
Jacqueline couldn't work legally in the U.S., and she was having trouble finding a job.
I was filling out all the applications to get a green card, but it was taking too long, and I was running out of money.
Until Anna came up with a solution.
She says, look, girl, don't worry about the green card thing. You can use my ID.
She's married. She's not really financially in dire straits. However, her friend is.
No, we cannot do that.
You're like my sister. Come on.
What if we get caught?
Let me worry about that, okay?
She understands that you have a lot of obstacles in your way, and if I can help you, even if it puts me at risk a little bit, I'm going to do that for you.
So Anna, being the generous person she was, allowed her to use her information to then pose as her and work.
Are you sure?
Positive.
Okay.
She did not steal someone's identity. It was given to her, willfully.
I just can't believe she's gone.
So you've heard.
About the body? Yes.
But it's what Jacqueline says next that really grabs the detective's attention.
I was afraid something like this would happen.
Why's that?
Anna was trying to get out of the marriage. That's why she moved to Houston.
She was in an abusive relationship.
Anastasia Owakina Lambert's friend, Jacqueline Afia, has just told detectives that the 27-year-old Nigerian immigrant had actually moved to Houston to get away from her abusive husband, Patrick Lambert.
Jacqueline knew things about the marriage.
Jacqueline knew about his temper, knew about his controlling, manipulative way with Anna.
He was always calling her, keeping tabs on where she was and who she was with.
Did she tell you he was abusive?
Well, not at first.
She told the police that in their culture, they keep things to themselves involving family issues.
A lot of times in various communities, we're taught to figure it out. You're in a situation, whatever the situation is, find a way out of it. What happens in this house stays in this house.
But Jacqueline says that Anna had eventually opened up and told her the awful truth about Patrick.
There was abuse, both physical and she alleged sexual abuse while she was in Hawaii.
That's when I told her to leave him.
And she took your advice?
No, not at first.
When you're in an abusive relationship, and people always ask, why didn't she just leave? Well, that's easier said than done because they feel like they can't get out. And that's because that person has so much control over them.
But eventually, Anna had called Jacqueline and said she was ready to leave Patrick.
So she flew over here to Houston.
Jacqueline helped her get back on her feet and got her involved with the local women's shelter.
The Houston Area Women's Center is very important, very integral to the community, and they help domestic violence victims.
You're able to tap into these resources that the Houston Women's Center has to get a job, to get vouchers, to get food, to get housing.
They even help her with utilities.
She was doing so great. She had a job, she had her own place.
But then, after a few months of freedom, Patrick was back in her life.
The control that he had over Anna was very obvious because she allowed him to come back.
I told her it was a bad idea, but she would not listen.
She wanted to make the marriage work because of the baby.
She probably was holding out hope that he would change.
When's the last time you saw Anna?
I haven't seen or spoken to her since September.
Jacqueline had been trying to Facebook Messenger and getting strange responses.
What do you mean by strange?
Well, they didn't sound like her.
You think someone was using her account?
Yeah, I think so.
And Jacqueline has a pretty good guess as to who was impersonating Anna and why.
She told him she wouldn't be surprised if Patrick was behind her murder. And after hearing her story, detectives were inclined to agree.
After talking to Jacqueline, the investigators have their first suspect.
At that point, there was really only one person, and that was Patrick Lambert.
With no leads on his whereabouts, the following morning, detectives follow up with the Women's Center.
The Houston Area Women's Center had an intake sheet that kind of spelled out why she was moving to Houston, why she needed shelter, and it talked a lot about her abuse.
Anna has revealed that Patrick's been violent in the past. He's threatened to kill her. She's doing everything that we ask people to do in domestic violence situations. She's asking for help, and she's fleeing the situation.
But like many women in abusive relationships, she allowed her abuser back into her life.
Some people think they want help, but they may not be fully ready to get the help that they really need.
She stopped coming in for her counseling sessions, and she stopped returning my calls.
The Houston Area Women's Center is trying to locate her, but they figured she just left with Patrick, because that's often what happens in domestic violence situations.
And by late November, the center stopped paying for Anna's utilities.
The Houston Area Women's Center required Anna to send them the bills to pay for them. So all utilities are shut off November 21st.
Roughly 2 weeks later, neighbors started complaining about a smell coming from her home.
Between Jacqueline and Anna's caseworker, the detectives are convinced that the woman in the fridge is Anna, and that Patrick is the one who put her there.
They sure knew they needed to find Patrick, and find him quick. Time is ticking.
But with no new leads, detectives focus on building up their case against Patrick, starting with a search through their database.
They found out on September 2nd, there was a police report where Patrick had threatened Anna with a knife.
Nothing came of that.
She asked the police not to press charges.
Also alarming is what they don't find.
There's no record of Patrick ever being in the military.
Everything about this guy is a red flag.
Next, the detectives reach out to a woman Anna's caseworker had mentioned was one of her close friends at the women's shelter.
What I want to do now is just talk to you a little bit about everything, okay?
Oh, okay.
Did she ever tell you about Patrick?
Yeah, she told me about some stuff that happened in Hawaii. I heard from another friend that he had threatened her. I didn't know that, but she just told me that they used to fight a lot, and her mom sent her like $1,000 for her plane ticket to leave Hawaii.
She had a good support system.
Detectives also talk to Anna's employer, who has only good things to say about her.
She was hardworking. They really thought she was a great employee.
But her boss says the last contact he had with Anna, a Skype message, had made him suspicious.
I don't think that was her answering.
The message contained multiple questions about a project that she had already finished.
That's very strange. Yeah.
Yeah, really strange. At the beginning of September, her sister in Germany asked me to get in contact with Anna because she wasn't contacting the family. And so I sent her a message on Skype and said, contact the family. And I just thought she'd been really, really busy, you know.
But then he got another strange message, this time from Patrick.
He sends an email on September 28th saying that Anna had a family emergency and that she was going to leave the country and that she wasn't coming into work.
The detectives know it was a lie.
Anna wasn't out of the country. She was in the refrigerator.
But where are Patrick and the couple's 1-year-old son?
It can be frustrating having nothing.
Old homicide detectives used to say, if God wants the case solved, we're going to get that magic phone call.
And luckily, it doesn't take long.
On December 12th, 4 days after they found Anna's body, the detectives finally get a lead.
Homicide.
The caller is a woman named Veronica Castillo.
Veronica is in Querétaro, Mexico. It's not a very populated area in Mexico. It's much deeper in Mexico than you would think somebody would travel.
But according to Veronica, there was someone new in town.
He told her his name was Patricio Santiago.
You know, something was odd about him because he said, don't ask me nothing about my past.
Detectives investigating Anastasia Oakina Lambert's murder have received a tip that her missing husband, 38-year-old Patrick Lambert, may be living on the lam in Mexico.
When did you first see him in Mexico?
I think it was the end of September and beginning of October.
Which is right around the time police believe the murder took place.
And unlike earlier sightings, the detectives have reason to believe this isn't a case of mistaken identity.
According to Veronica, Patrick has a little boy with him.
In the beginning, when I started talking to him, I didn't know he had a baby. Suddenly, he just did it to me like, yeah, I'm a father, and let's go and take care of my baby. But he never told me about the baby before.
Veronica said she actually had played with the son's son.
She'd also become very close with Patricio.
They end up having a sexual relationship.
Your wife gets murdered in Houston in September, and already by November, you're dating this new woman.
And by then, there was no doubt about Patricio's real identity.
Patrick trusted her enough that he revealed his name to her.
He told her he was Patrick Lambert.
Eventually, he even told her a little about his past. Not that Veronica believed much of it.
Patrick said he was married, but that he and his wife were separated.
He gave a lot of weird stories about how Anna was off fighting a war in Africa.
Something was like strange about him, and I just kind of ignored it.
She figured he was just telling tall tales.
However, there were other things about Patrick that were harder for her to ignore.
He had a really bad attitude sometimes.
Well, did he ever get violent with you? Did he ever hurt you?
No, not really. Not physically, but on the, you know, when sometimes you feel that the person is not, like, all good.
She says he has a bad temper.
But Veronica says the worst thing about Patrick was the way he treated his son.
She says he would often leave the 1-year-old at home alone.
I was like, well, we should take the baby. How can we leave him just there alone by himself? And he was like, don't worry about it. He's going to be okay. Things like that.
She knew something's really, really off. Something's really wrong here.
So she'd done a little digging on Patrick.
When something doesn't add up, we tend to investigate.
And it didn't take long in this world of the internet for her to find the story about Anna, for her to find the Amber Alert, and more importantly, to see the photo of Patrick Lambert.
At that point, the bells start going off.
There is a child involved. There's a woman that's been murdered. There's a man on the run.
Once she knew the whole story, Veronica contacted the Houston police.
Veronica did the right thing.
And after talking to Veronica Castillo, the detectives make a call of their own to the Mexican Federal Police.
The federales were very cooperative with Houston Police Department.
The Mexican authorities are able to locate Patrick and place him in custody
While awaiting the transfer of both Patrick and his son back to the States, the Houston police get a call from the property manager at Anna and Patrick's townhome.
By this point, detectives have released the crime scene, and the manager is getting the home ready to be re-rented.
Everything's been cleared out. A cleaning crew's in there with bleach, scrubbing walls, repainting, trying to make it as fresh as possible.
And in the bedroom closet, they find something police had overlooked.
The cleaning crew finds a knife. Not just one knife, actually 2 knives.
Could either of these knives be the murder weapon?
The crime scene folks get back out there, and they're able to preserve them.
The knives are still at the crime lab when Patrick, fresh off the plane from Mexico, finally sits down with the detectives in Houston.
Since you were brought in here by the customs people and everything, I said we got a lot of rules. Okay, so I'm going to read you your rights.
They then read him his Miranda warnings, but she waives.
He waives his right to remain silent because, according to Patrick, he has nothing to hide.
He stated that he had been in Mexico since August, before the time of the murder.
The detectives know that's a lie.
We have witnesses that saw him here in September. In fact, there was a police report where they spoke to him in September where he threatened her with a knife.
Although for a moment, detectives play along.
Did you take a bus down there, or did you drive down there, or what? How did you get down?
But it's why he supposedly fled to Mexico that takes the detectives by surprise.
He said he feared for his son's life and his life.
Because according to Patrick, Anna was mixed up with some very bad people.
I call them the Nigerian mafia.
Patrick Lambert has told detectives investigating the murder of his wife, Anastasia Owakina Lambert, that the 27-year-old Nigerian immigrant had connections to criminals from her home country.
She does things to survive, so if that's what she had to do to hustle, but I said it wouldn't end up good, or it wouldn't, it would end up being a problem.
Patrick tells a tale of how he had to flee with his son from Houston because the Nigerian mafia had a hit out for his wife.
You think she owed somebody money? Definitely. Do you think that was the reason for her being killed? I mean, I don't know, but she had to take care of family back in Nigeria. And is that a Nigerian thing, the way they killed her, to make a statement?
Patrick says he doesn't know.
He said that she was tied up in these things, that she was doing all this criminal behavior.
But the detectives don't believe a word of it.
I know you killed Anna. I know you did. Been doing this a very long time.
The story was so ridiculous.
We found absolutely no ties to her having any sort of criminal behavior whatsoever, much less ties to an organized criminal ring.
If Patrick was so concerned, it was truly a Nigerian mafia hit, why wouldn't he reach out to the police? Why flee to Mexico?
The detectives have heard enough.
Do you want to spend the rest of your life in prison, or do you want a chance to have a life?
He immediately stops talking and asks for a lawyer, and the interview ends.
At the end of the interview, the detectives arrest Patrick for first-degree murder.
Between his history of abuse and the fact that he'd fled to Mexico, detectives believe they have a strong case.
But when the case goes to trial in October of 2019, Patrick has one more surprise for everyone.
The day jury selection begins, he decides he's going to represent himself.
Him serving it as his own counsel was one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
What it tells me about Patrick is he's controlling, he's manipulative.
He truly believed he could manipulate the men and women on that jury, the facts of the case, because he believed he was charming. He was the one that could convince anyone.
The prosecutors argue that Patrick's manipulation directly led to Anna's murder.
He probably wanted someone who would just stay at home and cater to his every need. And him trying to control her, it just didn't work
You have someone that comes from Africa, and now she's in the United States. What that did for Anna was it gave her a chance to see women with a lot of autonomy, to see women who were independent. That woke something up inside of Anna that her husband probably did not like.
She became more wary of him, and she realized that she had become successful on her own. She didn't need him. She didn't need him in her life anymore.
She just wanted what you and I want. She wanted a fresh start. She wanted to see her son grow up. She wanted her freedom.
She had, we believe, started to distance herself from Patrick, and we think that's what ultimately led to the murder.
Because by late September of 2014, Patrick had become aware that he was losing control of Anna.
His last bit of control was to take her life.
The police and the prosecutors believe that the murder occurred on the 27th.
September 26th is the last time anyone sees Anna.
Then on the 28th, he had the nerve to send an email to her employer saying that she had gone home to Nigeria for a family emergency.
We don't know exactly what transpired. I would imagine she was telling him, I'm divorcing you, I'm getting out of this relationship, and he wasn't gonna have it. He took out a knife and brutally murdered her, stabbing her 20 times.
He didn't stab her once and was like, oh no, I don't know what to do. He stabbed her so many times.
This person is in a rage state. That was what Anna felt in the last few moments of her life.
And when the rage subsided, he tried to hide what he'd done.
He took all the shelving out, and he put her body in a position where she would fit in the refrigerator. And 2 days later, he's on a bus to Mexico with the son. He bought the tickets on September 29th. He gets on a bus September 30th. And by October 1st, he's already got a place in Mexico. And he meets Veronica, and they have a romantic relationship.
When it's the defense's turn, Patrick remains adamant that he wasn't the one who killed Anna.
Patrick didn't seem to really acknowledge that he was in trouble, and so he's asking very irrelevant questions about things like the Nigerian mafia and the Ivory Coast mafia.
He challenged officers on what they didn't do. Did the officers follow up on the Nigerian mafia claim?
He became very combative, very aggressive.
When the case goes to the jury, the prosecutors are confident of a conviction.
You would think this is a slam dunk. They're going to come back in 5 minutes and find this clown guilty.
But an hour passes, and then 2, and 3.
What in the world is going on? Do they believe his story? What is happening in that jury room?
Finally, after 4 days of deliberation, the jury reaches its verdict.
Patrick was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison.
Under state law, he's eligible for parole after 30 years.
But he'll only spend a few days behind bars.
Shortly after he went to prison, he killed himself.
He took his own life because that was his last part of his life that he could control. No one's gonna tell me what to do.
He was like, I control my own life, and so he took it.
A lot of people still have the feeling of eye for an eye. But even that doesn't feel like justice because the victim's family, friends, and those that were close to her still feel the pain for the rest of their lives.
There are many victims, but the most prominent one that stands out in my view is the child.
Neither one of his parents are there to see him grow up.
And since Anna's family is in Nigeria,
It was the late afternoon, July 26, 2012, when a call came in about a person killed in the Grant Park section of Atlanta.
Back in the day, Grant Park was a rough area, but it became fully gentrified.
It's one of the wealthiest parts of the city. A murder in Grant Park in broad daylight, that was gonna draw a lot of attention. There was already a lead detective assigned to the case.
He was young, up and coming, and doing great work.
Still, our commander wanted us to assist in the investigation. The media was going to grab a hold of this one.
So we headed to the scene to shepherd this young detective and make sure the investigation ran smooth.
So me and Vin roll up to Grant Park on this call. It's crazy how picturesque this neighborhood is.
This looks out of place, man. Doesn't match the scenery at all.
We see a black male stretched out on the concrete, looking up at the stars, eyes wide open, dead to the world. It was awful.
Hey, Barker, how's it going?
Hey, fellas.
And we check in with the lead detective, Steve Barker.
You got your first big fish, man.
Steve Barker wasn't really brand new, but he'd never received a homicide that had all the eyes of the city shining down on it. It was a big deal for him.
Take all the help I can get.
Okay. We got your back, all right? Give us a tour.
He's laid supine on his back. His hands are up in the air as if he was given up in death. We see a green cigarette lighter still in the clutches of his hands. We also see a broken, fresh cigarette.
All right, so it looks like this brother was about to spark up when he got killed.
Probably completely surprised.
So we got to understand he didn't even know what was about to happen to him.
All right, did we get any ID yet?
Not yet.
So now the medical examiner arrives on scene, and we get a chance to assess the body.
We've got one gunshot. It entered in here.
Did y'all get any shell casings?
No.
There's no shell casings. So now we're thinking more than likely this victim was shot with a revolver.
I've got a wallet.
Thanks. David McReynolds, 54 years old, lives on Augusta Avenue. Augusta Ave? Damn. It's only a block away, man.
It's the saddest thing we could think of, to be killed that close to your home.
He had a lot of cash on him. Okay. All right, so nobody cleaned this gentleman out.
He's got $593 in his wallet.
Puts robbery off the table.
Exactly.
If this was a lick, they missed it. If it's not a lick, it's revenge or there's some other motive.
I got a cell and some lottery tickets.
I don't get it. Is this personal?
It looks like that, huh?
So now we're thinking somebody had it out for this victim.
So this is all his stuff?
Gotta be.
We think that everything that's on the ground belongs to our victim.
Got another cell phone.
So now we got 2 cell phones on this scene. Either they both belong to our victim, or maybe this is one of the shooter or shooters' phones.
2 cell phones. Maybe our Vic's in the drug game.
That would explain the murder better.
If someone's involved in the drug trade, it's not uncommon for them to have 2 phones, one for personal use and one for business use, much like regular businessmen do.
Yo, this is a lot to unpack here.
This is the puzzle upon puzzles. What's the situation with this dead man?
Well, in this neighborhood, somebody had to have seen something, so let's start canvassing. Let's see if we can find some witnesses. Yeah? Thank you, Doc.
Let's get to know this neighborhood. We got to go out and make some friends.
And as we start to traverse the neighborhood, we come up on a house about 50 feet away.
What's going on over there?
Well, that's what we wanted to ask you.
We meet the homeowner, a woman named Allison Chase.
A man was shot and killed.
I knew it.
Knew what?
I heard a loud pop
What time was this?
around 4.
She didn't know if it was firecrackers. She didn't know what it was.
I looked out the window and I saw 3 men running down the street that way. Then they split up. One went down the alley and then 2 went towards South Street.
Are you sure there was 3?
Yes.
She describes them as black males. She thinks they're young, so that's a starting spot for us.
If you think of anything else, you give me a call, okay, man? Thanks.
Those 3 people are either our bad guys or there's some really good witnesses. Whoever they are, we need to identify those 3 men.
We're headed back to our original crime scene.
Excuse me.
And we run into a man that identifies himself on the street as John McReynolds, our victim's brother.
Is it true? Is my brother dead?
Yes.
We have to shift. And this is something that Quinn and I are very good at, and we're trying to teach this young detective. We have to step into almost a counselor mode.
We're sorry for your loss, man.
Thank you.
Hey, man, tell us what you can about your brother, all right?
He was a hero.
He says his brother was a U.S. military veteran that was on disability, that he was loved in this neighborhood.
Just lived with his girlfriend around the corner and led a pretty unassuming life.
Talk to us about his girlfriend.
Her name's Anita.
We know historically from working cases that love can hurt, and lovers kill each other. She didn't show up on scene, and our victim wasn't robbed. All options are on the table at this point.
Were they cool?
Yes.
John McReynolds quickly had us pump our brakes. He said these two were in love. He in no way felt like she could have anything to do with this unimaginable killing of his brother.
Do you know what David was up to today?
Probably lottery. He played a couple of times a day at a store around here.
That explains the lotto tickets and the cash that we found in our victim's pockets.
A regular routine and a chunk of cash. Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster.
This could have been a botched robbery.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We moved to South Street and speak with a woman named Sarah Collins.
How can I help?
Did you see or hear anything suspicious?
Well, I was driving down the street to go to the store, and I saw these black guys.
Sarah Collins goes on to explain, while these guys weren't running down her street, she said they were in a hurry.
Where did you see them?
I believe it was at the corner of Orman and Grant Terrace.
That's only a few blocks away from our crime scene.
All right, now what time was this at?
It had to be a little after 4.
That fits our timeline and our first witness.
One went down the alley, and then 2 went towards South Street.
What do they look like?
Yeah, it was weird. One of them waved at me.
Sarah Collins describes one of these males as 20 to 23 years old.
He had braids.
That's pretty distinctive description. So that's pretty good information right now.
He had on Timberland boots, and his pants were hanging really low.
What about the other guy?
He was tall and skinny, looks to be maybe 18 to 20 years old.
She gave us some good information. I mean, we got great breadcrumbs from our 2 witnesses. Now it's time to work other areas and see if we can dig these kids up. This investigation is about to be off to the races.
Them 2 boys are cousins.
Everybody was talking about this homicide.
Hey, you see what I'm seeing? Yeah, he's stalking.
This guy's final moments were actually caught on camera.
As the case comes into full view, we are thrown for a loop. This put a roadblock up on our whole investigation.
You guys heard of a Steve Sadow?
These suspects were untouchable.
I'm the guy in the video.
But a game-changing lead will put us back on track.
Yo, what'd you get pitched for, yeah?
Said kill some old guy.
Can we get a killer to open up?
Sometimes you gotta come down to a suspect's level to get them to...
We've got 1 gunshot to the midsection.
We're helping work the murder of 54-year-old David McReynolds, who was gunned down in the Grant Park section of Atlanta.
This kind of thing just doesn't happen down here. This isn't that neighborhood. This has everyone on edge.
Do you know what David was up to today?
Probably lottery.
We run into the victim's brother, and he tells us that his brother David used to love playing the lottery 2 times a day.
A regular routine and a wad of cash. Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster.
Maybe somebody figured our victim's routine out, and they wanted a piece of his winnings.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
There's a few of these stores around the neighborhood, so we're not quite sure exactly which one he may have went to, so we gotta hit every one of them.
So we go into Superfoods Neighborhood Grocery. We have to speak to the manager, Daniel Wu. He comes out.
Have you seen this gentleman?
Yeah. He's a regular. He was here earlier today.
He was buying lotto tickets?
Yeah. He was?
Sir, do these cameras work right here?
Yes, they do.
Can we see the video from today?
Okay, this way.
Thank you.
This is probably the most important clue we've gotten so far.
Okay, let's see what we got here.
Mr. Wu basically gives us the keys to the back room. He lets us go back and scrub through his cameras trying to find anything.
Hold up. That's him right there.
We find at 3:07, our victim enters the store.
Wait, he's by himself.
He's writing his numbers. He's doing what he's supposed to do. He actually spends 45 minutes in the store. He walks out, and we're looking at each other like, what did we miss here?
Something's missing. Run it back.
Let's look to see what we didn't see the first time. And as we're going through the video, frame by frame, we see 2 suspicious, hokey-looking young brothers in the store.
Yeah, what's up with these guys, man?
They may have just come in to get some AC, we don't know. But they're in the store for no good damn reason.
The first black male that we see, he's wearing white jeans and a black t-shirt. He walks in, he walks out, but then he comes back in and he buys a drink.
All right, so look at his partner, right?
What's interesting about this particular black male, he makes his way over to where our victim, David McReynolds, is filling out his lottery tickets, and he's watching him.
Hey, you see what I'm seeing? Hey, he's stalking him.
We have to ask ourselves, is it normal for someone to be just watching somebody filling out lotto tickets? As detectives, that's not normal.
Oh, wait. Look at his feet. He's wearing Timbs.
I got to think back to what this witness said when she described one of the two men over on Ormond and Grant Terrace.
He had on Timberland boots.
This guy's also rocking a red bandana.
He's got a red bandana hanging out of his pocket. Red bandana is a flag for the blood gang.
Our victim has a bullseye on his back.
In our estimation, our victim, David McReynolds, became a mark right at that moment. He was getting sized up for the lick. It had all the trappings of someone that was a future robbery victim. The man in the video continues to watch David as he pays for his lottery tickets.
All right, so what's the timestamp on this?
3:50 p.m.
What we know is, 15 minutes later, he's dead on the sidewalk. So whatever happened to him in that short window of 15 minutes.
So they followed him, they made their move, and then something went wrong, I guess.
This could be a huge break in the case.
We gotta find out who these guys are, ASAP.
So we've got two people depicted on camera, but our witnesses have described three. So we want to know what's on the other side of this coin.
The next day, we meet with David's girlfriend, Anita Starr.
Have you made any arrests?
Not yet, but we're developing suspects, so.
We need to talk to her and find out anything she knows, not just about our victim, his habits, but maybe there's someone else out there that we don't know about.
David kept mainly to himself.
What time did he leave yesterday?
It was around 3 o'clock. He was going to buy his tickets.
The store is close to where our victim lives, so it makes sense. He leaves his house at 3:07. He's entering the store.
When we found David, he also had 2 cell phones on him.
He always carried 2 phones.
He said that one phone was for personal use, the other phone was for odd jobs that he would do around the neighborhood.
That's how he made extra money. Did you speak to Cora?
Who's that?
That's his second cousin.
She lets us know that David's cousin, who lives in the neighborhood, may have something for us in the way of information.
I heard she might have seen something.
Anita gives us the cousin's name as Cora Dabney. We thank Anita. She's been a great help. We all head to Cora's house now to see what Cora has to say.
We met up with Cora. This woman was in her 80s, was sharp as a tack. Her house was between the store where David bought his lottery tickets and his home.
She told us right before the murder, she was sitting on her porch, saw David heading home from the store.
She also saw 3 young black men following behind him. The description matched the males from the surveillance video.
Cora said that when David turned the corner, she heard one man say, "Where'd he go? We gotta get him."
It could be nobody else they were talking about. So for us, this was confirmation. These 3 guys were involved in David's murder.
The next day, we got images of the suspects from the surveillance video and released it to the media.
We're hoping someone would recognize them. Now, it became a waiting game.
Mr. Barker.
Within hours of releasing this surveillance video, we get a shocking phone call.
Can you tell us about the footage you saw on the news?
I'm the guy in the video.
We cannot believe this. That's the last thing we expect.
Have you seen this gentleman?
He was here earlier today.
While working the murder of David McReynolds, we found out his daily activities involved playing lottery in the neighborhood he grew up in, Grant Park.
What's going on with these guys?
Surveillance video from the day of the murder seems to show at least 2 individuals in the store watching our victim and then later following him out of the store.
Mr. Barker.
We released the images of that video to the media, and the same day, we get a call from a guy that says he's actually depicted in the video released to the media.
I'm the guy in the video.
This is unbelievable. I can't wait to hear what he says.
All right, sir, what's your name?
Sean Bennett.
Which guy are you in the video?
The one wearing white jeans.
We need a face-to-face meeting with Sean, so we tell Barker to get him into the office.
Sir, could you come into homicide and straighten this out?
Sure.
Thank you, Sean. We'll see you soon.
Oh, now you're cooking with gas, baby. Here we go.
We're gonna have an opportunity to put this guy in the box and get into it with him. That's the most important part of this whole thing. So we're excited to get this guy into our office. Sean actually comes to our office, but he brings his girlfriend's mother, Brandy.
You're his moral support?
I'm the one who saw him on TV in the first place.
Sean, this you?
We want Barker to take the lead. He is the lead detective. So he's actually talking to Sean. And wherever we need to jump in, that's where we'll jump in.
Yeah, but I swear I didn't kill anyone.
Then why were you in there?
To buy a drink. That's it. Check the tape.
We know that for a fact because we see him make the purchase towards the end of his time in the store.
Who's this right here with the Tim's on?
We weren't together.
Sean says he doesn't know the guy that came in the store. He says that when he left, he saw the guy with the red bandana and the Timbs walk outside and talk to two guys he knows as Crash and Mont.
Crash and Mont.
Them two boys are cousins.
Brandy's chirping out loud. She's jumping in like she's effectively his counsel. I mean, he brought his neighborhood lawyer.
So you know them?
I know they in a gang.
She says both of them have recently joined the Bloods gang.
What else can you tell us about these cousins?
They live over there in Grand Terrace.
We gotta think back. We have a witness who saw two men running towards Ormond Street and Grant Terrace. So that's geographically correct. It's all adding up there.
You know what? Give me a second. I'll be right back.
I leave the interview and I go print out a map of Grant Park to include the area of Ormond Street and Grant Terrace.
Can you tell us where they live?
Here.
This is really significant because Brandy is mapping out our case for us. But first things first, we got to figure out Crash and Mont's real names.
Steve, what's the address? It's 3725 Grant Terrace.
So I'm typing in the address that Brandy gave us where Crash and Mont live. And the reason why is we're trying to get a history of this house.
All right, here we go. We got two names associated with this address. We got Ricky Holt, 17 years old, and Montavious Jones, 19.
Teenagers?
And they got the nicknames to match.
It shows where Ricky Holt is actually identified as having a street name of Crash, and he's a member of the Blood gang.
Montavious goes by Mont.
We're thinking we got this thing licked. We have identified Mont, identified Crash. This is it.
Okay, what's the move?
We need some positive ID from our witnesses. Let's work on that.
Mont and Crash, though young, they have a limited criminal history, but enough where we get photographs of both of them and we put them in photographic lineups.
We were excited, so we brought in all of our witnesses from Grant Park to have them look at our lineups. But we struck out with everyone we brought in. Nobody could pick anybody from these lineups we presented.
We felt completely defeated. We were positive we identified at least two of our bad guys. The only person we had to show the lineup to yet was Sean Bennett.
He was the one who mentioned these two guys in the first place. He was our last hope, so we're praying he can come through on this.
Hey, Sean. Why don't you look at these lineups? Tell us if you recognize anyone.
Yeah. That's Crash, and that's Mom.
These two guys can't get out of this at this point. They were there with our victim. And what happens next, we got to figure that out. But Sean has essentially connected our victim to these two suspects.
And I think I know who the third guy is now.
He's been out there listening, keeping his ears to the ground.
Word on the street, dude's name is Dre. He's the one who shot that guy.
Street talk, huh?
Yeah.
It's hearsay. It's not what he heard directly. We can't use that in a legal proceeding. So right now, what Sean's telling us, it's just useful information. It's not anything we can use for a warrant.
What else can you tell us about Dre?
Nah, that's it.
Sean doesn't know Dre's full name or where to find him, but we believe he's been forthcoming up to this point, so we cut him loose.
So what's the plan?
Hit those boys up.
So at this point, we have Detective Barker reach out and actually call Ricky Holt and Montavious Jones.
Hello?
Hi. I'm trying to reach Ricky.
Ricky's mother, Dominique, is on the line.
Barker tells her straight up that we're trying to get an interview.
We definitely need to speak to your son.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let's ride.
She promises to reach him, get in touch, and put us together. At this point, everything is coming together. This is incredible right now.
2 days have gone by. We hadn't heard hide nor hair of Dominique.
Left Dominique messages, but she's ghosting me.
So we're a little worried. What happened? What was the breakdown?
Try her again.
We decide to call Dominique back and, see what the hell.
Hello?
All right, Dominique, it's Detective Barker.
Hold on.
She just hands the phone to another guy like, I'm done with this. You deal with it.
Who is this?
Thaddeus. I'm Montavious' father.
Barker goes on to explain to Thaddeus that we need to speak to your son and Ricky. And quickly, Thaddeus says, no problem. I will bring them to your office tomorrow.
I'll keep my word.
Okay. We'll see you tomorrow. Got a good feeling about this.
We feel like he said he's going to bring these two youngins to the station the next day. He just pulled out the defibrillator. Our case is back on track. But with the finish line in sight, things take a turn.
Yeah, that's them right there. Crash and Mont.
2 weeks into our investigation, we've positively identified 2 suspects in the murder of our victim, David McReynolds.
Teenagers?
Fits the profile.
The first suspect is 17-year-old Ricky Holt, a.k.a. Crash. The other is 19-year-old Montavious Jones, who goes by the name of Mont.
I'm Montavious' father.
Montavious' father, he's not only going to bring his son in, but he's also going to bring his nephew in, Ricky, the next day for an interview.
I'll keep my word.
Okay.
We are absolutely excited to hear this.
Barker, chin up, man.
I just got a call. Boys aren't coming in.
We get a call now from Thaddeus, the father of Montavious, and he's not bringing them in. In fact, what he's telling us now is they're not coming in because they have an attorney. That's the worst thing we could hear at this point.
All right. I don't understand.
You and me both.
He was all enthusiastic the day before. What the hell just happened?
We're in trouble.
That's our experience. In 12 years in homicide, very rarely does an attorney allow someone to speak to us unless they're just really witnesses. So now we're thinking, these are probably 2 of the 3 guys that we're looking for. They got representation now. We can't talk to them.
All right, so who's the attorney?
Have you guys heard of a Steve Sadow?
Oh, man.
This particular attorney, both Quinn and I know him. He's got a reputation, not just in Atlanta, but nationwide. Like, this guy is known to represent high-profile clientele, athletes, artists, people who have money and have notoriety, even wealthy businessmen who get themselves in a pinch. So this is a heavy hitter.
Yo, somebody in that family must have money to hire that guy.
So we knew at that point, we definitely had our work cut out for us.
Look, I'm telling you right now, those kids are wrapped up in a cocoon.
All right. Time to come up with a new plan. Grab a chair.
With Mont and Crash shut down, we decided to go after their cell phone records. Maybe the records could connect them to the crime.
When the records came back, we saw that Mont and Crash's phones were pinging off a cell tower around the crime scene at the time the murder was committed.
We thought this seemed like pretty good evidence, but then we found out they both had grandmothers that lived in the neighborhood.
We knew the suspects to say that they were visiting their grandmothers or just going to get something from the store. Basically, the records were a dead end.
At this point, our Hail Mary in this case was to identify Dre. The streets were saying he was the actual shooter, so that's where all of our focus was going next.
Barker had an idea to do another massive canvass of the area. We're talking about handing out hundreds of flyers, putting a billboard up, asking about information on the case.
Because it's just too many moving parts. We don't want to do this, but we decided to entertain this young detective. And you know what? This move paid off.
Oh, where's the fire?
We got him. Dre.
An anonymous tip comes in from someone who identifies our actual shooter. It's 22-year-old Andre Bird.
Andre Bird.
Andre. Dre.
We got to give Detective Barker his flowers. I mean, he came up with this. This newfangled way of reaching out to the public. That is a parade of law enforcement landing in a neighborhood looking for evidence. I'm talking the horse patrol, the motorcycle squad. It was a show of force that we necessarily didn't agree with. He just scored. Big W. Had to have happened as a result of the neighborhood canvass, and we're excited.
The tipster said he was previously arrested by APD.
And you already printed a mugshot.
Gotta learn from the best, right?
Hey. All right, so you know what time it is?
Photo lineup with Sean time?
Bam!
We invite Sean Bennett to the office to view the lineup.
Grab a chair. Thanks for coming back, Sean. Why don't you take a look at these? Would have been one of the ones in the store with you that day.
We show him this lineup and hope, as a last resort, that he picks Andre Bird.
This right here is the moment of truth.
The entire case hinges on this lineup.
Boys aren't coming in.
We had a major snag in a murder investigation of our victim, David McReynolds, when two of the suspects we have identified hired a high-priced attorney and would not let them talk to us.
We're in trouble.
Just as we think the case is fried, we get an anonymous tip identifying the third suspect as Andre Bird.
The tipster said he was previously arrested by APD.
So we call Sean back up, sit him down in front of a lineup to see if we can make an ID.
That's Dre.
We have effectively identified Andre Bird as the Dre suspected of being our shooter in our homicide case.
We're there, man.
Not yet, but we're closer.
All this evidence by itself is not enough to not only make an arrest, let's go to trial. We need something that's gonna tie it together.
We subpoenaed Andre Bird's cell phone records, and it showed he was actually in the area at the time of the murder. Not only that, he called Ricky Holt just minutes before the homicide.
Weeks passed with no new developments. We decided we're gonna try to interview him, but he had fallen off the radar.
Then in early October, we received a call from the East Point Police Department. They knew we'd been looking for Andre Bird, and they told us they had arrested him that day on a burglary and home invasion charge.
We're almost 3 months into this investigation. It's time to get some answers. East Point Police agreed to release Andre Bird into our custody. We brought him into homicide for questioning.
This is gonna be Barker's coming out party. With all this training, all this know-how being injected in him during this investigation, he's gonna get a chance to talk to the #1 suspect in the death of David McReynolds. We're excited. We're gonna sit back, we're gonna watch this kid do his thing with this suspect.
I want to talk to you about David McReynolds' homicide in Grant Park.
I heard about what happened, but that's it.
Barker, being a smart detective that he is, shows the same surveillance still from the store and shows it to Andre Bird.
Can you tell me who that is?
That's me.
So far, Barker's doing a phenomenal job. He's got the suspect to identify himself in the store in the presence of our victim. Barker then needs to take it to the next level.
So what happened next? You follow the victim?
He is really pressing Andre Bird, trying to get him to understand he's got him involved in this murder investigation.
Come on, man.
I'm telling you, I ain't do nothing. I went home.
Do you know who crashed in Montes?
Yeah, I know him from around the neighborhood.
Detective Barker gets right to the meat of the matter.
Great. Can you explain this call to me?
And he says, I got phone records showing you talking to Crash right before my murder.
Yeah, I called him later to meet, hang out.
You gotta come clean.
I'm telling you the truth.
Andre Bird, he's not even giving Detective Barker a chance to finish his question before he's formulating an answer.
You know, Bird is too comfortable.
This is it for us. At this point in the investigation, if we can't get Andre Bird to admit to what happened to our victim, we're done.
Time to shake some things up, man. Bingo.
When you gotta relieve the homicide detective that's not really getting anywhere, you gotta make it seem organic in front of the suspect. I rap on the door and I'm like, yo, I heard somebody needs a smoke around here.
My bad. They told me somebody in here needed a puff, so.
Barker, playing along with me, says, yeah.
Need a smoke break?
Yeah. Come on, bro. I got you.
I said, come on outside, man. You can't smoke in here. So Andre Bird gets up, and we take the elevator ride downstairs.
Yo, I feel like people been crawling up my ass all day. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh. I wanted him to think that I wasn't coming in to try to get the confession from him.
Yo, what'd you get pitched for, yo?
And he said I killed some old guy.
I'm just trying to give him a smoke and have some healthy conversation about why he's down there. And it works.
Hang in there, all right? If you need to take a break, just ask.
I'm trying to sell myself to him because I want him to be comfortable. I've been down this road many times before with these youngins who have killed, and they need a hug. They need somebody to give them a conversational hug. I was there to provide that.
Well, you want another cigarette?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got the feeling that Andre was getting comfortable. He's working on his third cigarette. And I just confront him with the fact that Detective Barker has him at this homicide.
Look, be smart and just tell me what's going on with the case.
In my estimation, this case ends today.
Did you follow the victim?
I'm telling you, I ain't do nothing. I went home.
12 years in the homicide unit, me and this guy were getting the feeling collectively Andre Bird was really comfortable with Detective Barker.
Time to shake some things up, man.
He needed a little bit of sauce up in that room to make this thing pop.
They told me somebody in here needed a puff, so...
It's time for us to tap in, go in there, and bring Andre Bird out of that room.
Come on then, bro. I got you.
When we were a motorized bicycle company.
Can you tell me who that is?
That's me.
We finally have Andre Bird in an interview room to question him about the murder of David McReynolds.
Do you know Cash and Mount?
Yeah, I know him from around the neighborhood.
We were watching Detective Barker, and he was doing a great job. He just couldn't move that football over the line, and that's okay.
Well, you want another cigarette?
Yeah.
It took something else, and we knew we had that weapon with us.
Yo, bro. Be smart. And just tell me what's going on with the case.
This young brother Andre has gotten comfortable. I think I got him.
I would, but I don't even know.
I'm trying to sell him that Detective Barker has him. I said, he's upstairs, we're down here. Talk to me. What really happened out there?
All right, here's the deal. Jamal was the shooter.
Right away, I know that's some BS.
Jamal? All right, who's that?
He's the kid around the neighborhood.
We haven't had any Jamal in our case, and he already knows our numbers for this investigation. We got 3 suspects, so he's created one. I know in my heart of hearts, he is Jamal.
Well, tell me the story, bro.
All right, it was Crash, Mont, and Jamal. And they was just trying to rob him. I was there too, but I just watched.
He makes himself a witness 25 feet away, watching 3 males accost and encounter Mr. David McReynolds. He said it was a guy named Jamal, Crash, and Mont, and Jamal had the gun.
What kind of gun was it?
.38 revolver. Shot him in the stomach.
He watched him shoot David McReynolds, and then he ran home and cried about it.
Nah, bro, that's one heck of a story, okay? But it ain't true.
But it is.
I confront the brother and I say, look, man, what you're doing is lying. So I lied back to him and said, we already locked in Jamal. He ain't in this. He's been alibied out.
I need you to stop playing with me, all right? Tell the truth.
I get loud on him, and at some point, he just explains that it was a lick.
All right, it was me, Crash, and Mont. We were just trying to rob him, and it went wrong. Mont was the shooter.
This is a confession. It's a veiled confession, but a confession nonetheless. Now it's time to walk Mr. Bird back upstairs and let our boy, Detective Barker, bring it home. I go back and debrief with Detective Barker and Vince, just to let them know what's going on out there. Because right now, the training wheels are off the bike for real, for real.
So walk me through it.
I spotted the old man at the store.
Andre Berg clearly and quickly tells Detective Barker that he was with Crash and Mont at the store when he saw a customer flashing a big wad of money. We know that's our victim, David McReynolds.
I told my boys about it, and Mont said, let's rob him.
Andre Berg goes on to say that Mont had a .38 caliber weapon. We know we had no shell casings on our scene. We've always suspected it was a revolver.
After that, we left the store and we just started following him. And then Mont made a move.
Mont ran ahead of the other two, produced the gun, and started the commission of the robbery. He said David McReynolds offered no resistance, put both his hands up, and was fully submissive.
He was holding a gun. His hands was nervous. It was real shaky.
Made me nervous.
After Mont pointed the gun at him, he started going through David McReynolds' pockets. And at some point, according to what Andre said, Mont got really nervous and shoots David McReynolds.
Why'd he shoot him?
I don't know.
The victim didn't have a gun, didn't resist, didn't fight, and he has no idea why he pulled the trigger.
After he shot him, we just bugged out. And we didn't get any money.
I was self-serving.
I don't in no way buy this story that Mont did it or had anything to do with the gun. I mean, this is a veiled confession. It looks like it might have been an accident, but it doesn't matter. If you plan a robbery, which is a felony, and someone dies, you're guilty of murder in the state of Georgia. Felony murder. After the interview with Andre Berg, he is quickly charged with aggravated assault, murder, and attempted armed robbery, and felony murder.
In August of 2015, Andre Berg goes to trial and is convicted on all counts and is sentenced to life in prison. Ricky Holt and Montavious Jones were also arrested, charged, and indicted for murder. However, because of lack of evidence, the case is going to be dead docketed, meaning it's just not going to be prosecuted.
This is a situation most people just don't understand. Under the law, you can't take the word of one co-defendant as the only evidence against his other co-conspirators.
It's just not within the confines of the law. We felt strongly these other two individuals, Mont and Crash, were involved in the death of our victim, David McReynolds.
While the DA's office has the right to prosecute them in the future, the fact is, these two alleged accomplices may never face justice.
All right, so it looks like this brother was about to spark up when he got killed.
You know, this is a case that we learned a lot on.
I heard a loud pop.
To see a gentrified community, black and white people come together to work together, it's something I hadn't seen in all the years working homicide.
Have you seen this gentleman?
Yeah, he's a regular.
And that's the testament to, you know, the community and what Atlanta really is about.
You got your first big fish, man.
But the irony in this case is...
She was a good mom.
She was about her daughter all day, every day. Outside of work, she was with her daughter.
We were trying to figure out what was wrong, but nobody heard from her.
She just said, I'm gonna go see a friend.
Family members were back in this neighborhood again today, passing out flyers.
This is more than just a missing person.
An anonymous tip came in, and that 6 people were involved. They wanted to teach her a lesson. Nobody just stepped up to stop.
Washington, D.C., capital of the United States, home to over 650,000 residents. The city is policed by officers over 7 districts.
We have District 1, which encompasses like downtown. District 2 is Upper Northwest, and the 7th Police District. It encompasses parts of Southwest and Southeast DC. It's a very diverse community. There are some very lovely neighborhoods tucked away in the 7th District. There's also historical marks, Frederick Douglass home, things of that nature. So it's a lot of good things over there. And then there are some not so good things.
On Monday, August 9th, 2010, family of 18-year-old Letitia Frazier walks into the 7th District Police Headquarters in distress.
Caroline Frazier, Barry Campbell have responded in, demanding service.
Letitia's mother, Caroline, says they filed a missing persons report days ago.
Caroline Frazier had been at her ends with. She wasn't getting the response that she felt she should be getting from the police department.
They was telling her she's a teenager, she just probably didn't come home, and so then we all went back to 7D.
Detective Jackie Middleton meets with him.
The family gave me the layout of what had happened, what had transpired through the past week.
Caroline says they first became worried a week ago when Letitia, also known as Tish, didn't answer their calls.
We called Tish, no answer. Kept on calling Tish, and no answer. And we say, this ain't Tish that don't answer her phone. We didn't get no calls from her. We called her. We were trying to figure out what was wrong. And, nobody heard from her and nobody this. So we started looking for her.
When they couldn't find Letitia, they went to authorities, but hit another roadblock.
Letitia Frazier was now an adult. They were told that they had to wait 24 hours to report her missing.
They tried to say that she ran away, but we say she don't never run away.
I said, that's not like her. She wouldn't be doing that because she has a daughter here, so she wouldn't be doing that. She would not just not come home.
She kept the child with her. On her days off, her mother helped her because she worked. And so Caroline would keep the baby with her so that Letitia could work. And for Letitia not to contact Caroline, just to check on her baby for over a week, like radio down, nobody's heard from her, nobody's seen her. It just was an indicator that something awful was wrong.
She didn't hang out in the streets. She didn't go to clubs. She didn't do none of that. If she didn't come home, something happened.
Born on October 3rd, 1991, Letitia Frazier was the youngest of Caroline's 3 daughters, and her father, Barry's firstborn.
Carolyn and Barry, mom and dad, were no longer together as a couple, but they were definitely family, and they kept everyone close.
That I wasn't there is full hand, parents living together type. She lived in one house with her mother. I lived in another house, but so when I had that time with her, I tried to be the best, give her the best of me when I was around her.
I took care of all of them. Like I said, I raised them all mostly by myself, and, couldn't ask for nothing better.
As a teenager, Letitia started thinking about her future.
When she about 15, 16, she started, watching me cook, like chicken and stuff like that. And she started picking up, Mom, can I help you to do this? I said, go ahead. Can I help you to do that? I said, go ahead.
That was one of the conversations that we also had, that her passion for food and cooking. I was like, wow, so that's why you should, continue to go ahead and go to school once you, graduate, focus on, your career in cooking.
But at 15, Letitia became pregnant.
I didn't want them to go out and get pregnant at a young age, but it happened. I had to deal with it, help her to take care of her and everything.
It happened. Now let's work through it, let's grow. We all live and learn throughout life, so this is a lesson learned.
In 2007, Letitia gave birth to a baby girl.
It was just that precious. I felt real good as a grandfather, and my daughter was real happy.
She was a good mom. I mean, she did everything she could do for her. She bought her stuff when she was working, made sure she ate good, did her hair and everything.
Letitia was determined to finish high school.
She stayed in school, she focused, she continued, she graduated on time. So she had a scholarship to go to PG for culinary arts. But she didn't want to go right after school. She wanted to spend time with her daughter. That was another, just mother spending time with her child. She wanted to just be out of school for a year.
She loved her baby, was working at McDonald's and everything. So she was doing up okay.
She was about her daughter all day, every day. Outside of work, she was with her daughter.
On August 9th, Letitia is missing. Caroline and Barry are at the 7th District Police Headquarters asking for help.
You have a mother who's saying, I have been calling her adamantly, trying to reach her, but she wasn't answering her phone. That's a red flag. And the biggest red flag is a mother abandoning her child. You don't see that a lot.
Caroline tells Detective Middleton that she'd contacted the McDonald's where Letitia was scheduled to work the night she went missing.
I called them and they said she left out of there. She went home, and I talked to the lady, and she told me she ain't seen her come back in the next day.
Letitia would take the bus home once she completed her shift, and on many days, her boyfriend would meet her, and they would ride back to D.C. together.
The boyfriend is 20-year-old Ronell Nails.
He was a pretty nice young gentleman. When he came over our house a couple of times, we called Ronell.
He last saw her on the day that she went missing. They were actually together. They were riding on a bus. She got off the bus. He continued on his ride.
In Parkland. He got off, so she supposed to met some friends of hers.
The detective asks if there are any other men in Letitia's life. They mention Marcus Sharp, the father of Letitia's daughter.
They remained friends.
That was confirmed through Caroline Frazier that they weren't together and that they were co-parenting.
Detective Middleton has heard enough to share the family's concern.
I now want to talk to all these people. So going forward, that's what I did.
Once the fire got sparked under Miss Middleton, she went rolling. She didn't, she went out and stomped the pavement.
This was a young lady of stability. This is more than just a missing person.
It's the summer of 2010 in Washington, D.C., and 18-year-old Letitia Frazier has been missing for a week. Having met with her family, Detective Middleton has a list of people to talk to, starting with Letitia's manager at the McDonald's where she worked.
That was the last place she was seen, so you start there. Did she get in an argument with a customer? Were there any threats? Did she have any problems? Talking to her manager, she was a good girl, a hardworking girl, a valued employee. And she never missed work. She was never late.
Letitia's day at work was a normal day. Co-workers didn't mention anything out the norm. her attitude, demeanor, everything. She was just her loving self.
The manager confirms that Letitia left work and got on the bus with her boyfriend, Ronell Nails.
According to what I'm told is he's the last person to see her. So now we have to determine when he last saw her, what was going on, so on and so forth. So we interview him.
Detectives bring Ronell in the next day.
He was very upset with that situation. Anyone who really knew Letitia knew that she would not do this. She would not just walk away from her family and her job and her daughter especially.
According to Ronell, Letitia said she'd meet up with him later at his house, but she never showed up.
They got on the bus, the P-bus, like they normally do. She told him, according to him, that she was going to hang out with some friends. And, you know, it's early in the evening, 5-ish, 6-ish, you know. He didn't see any problem with that, you know. So that's what she did. He went on home. He seemed concerned, you know. I felt after talking to him that he didn't do anything to her.
But a gut feeling isn't enough.
We asked him if he would be willing to take a polygraph, and he did take a polygraph test, and it showed no deception.
Before Ronell leaves, he makes a suggestion.
He suggests that we talk to the baby father. Marcus lived around the corner from where he last saw her. He knows that that's where she got off the bus at, so could Marcus have seen her? He could have. He could know something.
Naturally, he's going to be someone you're going to look at. You want to know if there's issues going on between them. Is there any jealousy of him knowing that she's now dating someone else?
They find Marcus at his home.
He had no problem with talking to me and gave me that he hadn't seen her. I did ask him would he be willing to take a polygraph, and he did. And he passed the polygraph or showed no deception.
Her child's father, he was cleared and nothing came of that.
With Marcus and Ronell in the clear, the only clue Detective Middleton has left is that Letitia got off the bus in the Parkland neighborhood on the night she disappeared.
Detective Middleton knew at this particular point that she's in the right neighborhood to be looking, because this is a neighborhood where Letitia has friends.
I had flyers made with the Metropolitan Police Department logo on it, a picture of Letitia, Crime Solvers numbers, the 7th District's phone number, and my number as well. While putting up the flyers, recanvassing, you know, even talking to neighbors over and over again, you know, to see if they heard or saw anything.
She is joined by Letitia's family.
The mom, Carolyn, took it upon herself and the rest of the family whenever they weren't working, they were all out in the streets. They were, you know, banging on doors, putting up posters.
We have an employee missing from work. We have a mother who hasn't been in contact with anyone. Something's going on here. Let's try to figure out where she is.
In Southeast Washington, D.C., investigators have no leads in the disappearance of 18-year-old mother Letitia Frazier. Family members and detectives scoured the Parkland neighborhood, where Letitia told her boyfriend she was going to see a friend.
The family and friends, we're spending a great deal of time in the communities passing out flyers, trying to obtain information in reference to the case.
Letitia's mother, Caroline, is often joined by a well-known local TV reporter.
She called Sam Ford, who became very persistent. Like every time she went out to put out flyers, he was there. He stayed in the community, supporting her.
Family members were back in this neighborhood again today, passing out flyers they had made up in search of 18-year-old Letitia Frazier.
Sam, connected with the family as well. He could see, how much effort they had been putting in to try and find Letitia. And he covered that story numerous times in the news.
Caroline speaks with everyone in the Parkland neighborhood who might have known Letitia. Accompanied by Sam Ford and his camera, she comes across 23-year-old Brian Gaither.
Sam agreed to go with Caroline as she went around the neighborhood asking questions and knocking on doors and film her doing that.
Gaither is a friend of 16-year-old Johnny Sweet, himself a mutual friend to both Letitia and her child's father, Marcus.
The father actually lived in that area, and that is how Letitia first came to know Johnny Sweet, Brian Gaither. They hung out together.
Brian offers kind words.
Brian Gaither came out and apologized, said he was sorry for what had happened. He can't believe she's missing. We don't know anything about it.
Brian invites her inside.
You're welcome to come in and look in the apartment for her. She's not here. She's not here.
So he went and walked Caroline in the building to show her around and make sure that Letitia wasn't in there.
And she came out with no sighting or sign of Letitia being in that apartment.
Caroline's efforts don't uncover any news on Letitia's whereabouts. But there is a sign that someone in the neighborhood knows something.
The flyers were going up and the flyers were coming down. Like they would go through on Wednesday, put flyers on all the light poles and hang them on doors and stuff. And then in the immediate area where we had suspected she was last seen, those flyers would be torn down. Okay, and we couldn't understand why and couldn't figure out what was going on.
I found that to be very strange. I've been involved in missing person cases and community pools together. They don't tear down the flyers.
It was clear through the investigation that someone didn't want Letitia found.
Letitia's family doesn't give up. They continue to hang flyers and hold out hope she will come home.
Every day we put them up, they were taking them down. And we kept it going on.
Summer turns into fall with no sign of Letitia. Then, a disturbing new development.
One of the sisters of Letitia Frazier began to receive social media threats saying that her sister was dead, stop looking for her.
If we keep looking for Tisha, they say that somebody gonna get hurt.
One of the threats that they received, and it was Letitia is dead, one gone, more to come.
To investigators, the threats are a potential break.
Somebody's knows something or saying they know something and saying where she could be. So let's get somebody involved to try to track where these messages are coming from.
They were able to get search warrants for that account. They were able to locate the IP address for where that had come from.
Okay, let's go, team. We're all excited. We're gonna go out, we're gonna look for this address.
In the fall of 2010, Washington, D.C. investigators raced to a location where they traced social media threats made against the family of missing teenager Letitia Frazier.
We follow the directions to a T, and it takes us, to this address, and we get there and boom, it's a vacant lot. We could only assume that somebody was using their hotspot at that location in this lot. They parked their car there and sent these emails or text messages.
So now it's like regroup time. We're trying to figure out where can she be, who is she with, what happened.
Caroline was persistent. She just kept going, and she kept bringing the media, so it was in our faces. Every citizen saw it.
Her daughter, 18-year-old Letitia Monique Frazier, disappeared after leaving her job at McDonald's last August 2nd. She was last seen around Trenton Place Southeast, where the family passed out flyers last summer.
It eventually pulled on the heartstring of someone. Someone got tired of watching on the news the mother grieving and the mother requesting answers. Someone felt the need to call the crime source.
The tip comes in on January 10th, 2011, 6 months into the investigation.
An anonymous tip came in that Letitia was murdered and that 6 people were involved.
We were able to track that information back to the caller. And the caller, really didn't want to come in, but we talked to that person. The informant laid it out, and the informant put names to the players, but they were mostly first names and nicknames.
One, known as Black Jesus, is 16-year-old girl Anika Nelson. The informant helps investigators identify the other 5.
All of these people were supposedly friends of Letitia. There were 3 boys, 3 girls.
Johnny Sweet, Anika Nelson, Brian Gaither, Lene Bell, Kamal Hassan, and Cynthia Proctor.
There were 6 players involved, the youngest being 16, and I think the oldest person at the time was 23 years old. The youngest person was Anika Nelson.
Detective Middleton wants to start the interviews by talking with Anika.
Because she's a juvenile, I had to speak with her mother and get permission. And I explained to her mother what was going on and that I assured her that we just wanted to talk to her. She wouldn't be arrested. The same way that she came in would be the same way that she would return. And they came in, the mom and Anika.
On January 22nd, the 16-year-old sits down with detectives.
It's not like she came in and just confessed, We had information from the informant that you put in your face, So it's like, we got you, now what? So they questioned her and they let her tell her story.
Anika says that Letitia often came to Johnny's apartment after work to hang with a group of 6 friends that regularly met up there.
Johnny Sweet's mother was hospitalized and was not in the apartment. Brian Gaither was staying there with Johnny during the time that his mother was away.
One day, Anika says that Johnny told her, Brian, Lene, Kamal, and Cynthia that Letitia had stolen from him.
$900 of Johnny's money was missing, and he believed that Letitia was the one who took his money.
Johnny was upset, and soon the others were too.
Johnny Sweet was angry because he believed that Letitia had stolen money from him.
His outrage spread among the friends.
All of these folks really were, kind of at loose ends. and banded together. Johnny Sweet was actually the ringleader of this group.
They got to a point where they wanted to teach her a lesson.
On January 22nd, 2011, Washington, D.C. detectives are questioning 16-year-old Anika Nelson over the disappearance of her friend, Letitia Frazier. Anika says that she and a group of 5 friends were angry with Letitia for allegedly stealing money from Johnny Sweet. Johnny came up with a plan.
They would lure her to the apartment, and then when she arrived, they would assault her.
Johnny is the one who talked the girls into starting an assault on Letitia to try to get her to tell him where the money is.
Following her shift at McDonald's, Letitia arrived at the apartment to hang out. Johnny took her to a bedroom where the others were waiting.
Anika said, I just punched her in her face. So she swung the first round. And then, it just happened.
They accused her of stealing money from Johnny Sweet, which she denied. They continued to hit her, to beat her, to kick her when she was down.
At a particular point, the girls stopped, and Johnny started beating on her. Johnny started stomping all on her. They gagged her mouth with a sock. They put a pillowcase on her head.
They duct taped her wrists and ankles together, and they put her in a closet in that bedroom. They were trying to decide what to do now, because she was kind of fading in and out of consciousness at that point.
Unsure what else to do, they left Letitia in the closet.
They continue to party, what they do. They party, do their thing, and then they go back and check on her, and she's no longer breathing. So they panic, and now we have a body. What are we gonna do?
There was a lot of stress. The boys especially were going back and forth about what to do. By the end of that evening, most of them left.
Anika went home and is unsure what happened to Letitia's body. Her interview is a big break, but investigators will need more to make arrests.
Now it's time to get a search warrant. Once search warrant is signed, now detectives going back to that location with the mobile crime technicians, and now we're looking for evidence.
They do not find Letitia's body, but they continue to look for signs of foul play.
With information that she was placed inside the closet was examined, and they cut areas of carpet out, and they also cut the floorboard. And they realized that blood had slipped down in between the wood. So that now can also be submitted for analysis to the laboratory.
That same day, investigators bring in the remaining 5 suspects for questioning. 23-year-old Brian Gaither confirms Anika's story, but reveals shocking new details.
At one point in the evening, they heard Letitia moaning in the closet, and she was still alive. And so Brian Gaither went back to the bedroom and pulled her slightly out of the closet and put her in a chokehold or bar hold until she stopped making noise. I'm sure that it killed her. There was no movement, no sound after that.
But it wasn't until later, Brian says, that they realized Letitia had died.
Now everyone began to panic. What are we going to do?
In a separate interview, 18-year-old Cynthia Proctor describes what happened the next day when 4 of them returned to the apartment.
Johnny Sweets, Brian Gaither, Cynthia Proctor, and I believe Mr. Hassan, they had decided to try and dismember Letitia's body. And they put her in the bathtub of the apartment and tried to start that process.
Cynthia Proctor used a kitchen steak knife to try to dismember the body.
It was so disturbing that Cynthia Proctor, who was 6 months pregnant at the time, began feeling sick, and she had to leave to go to the hospital.
Cynthia doesn't know what happened next. Investigators take that question back to Brian Gaither.
Gaither took the body in like a Rubbermaid tub to the dumpster out behind the apartment. In the parking lot, there's 2 dumpsters. Placed the tub in the dumpster.
Brian Gaither is arrested and charged with second-degree murder. Charges follow for Anika Nelson, Lene Bell, Johnny Sweet, Cynthia Proctor, and Kamal Hassan. News of the arrests and Letitia's fate reaches her family.
It was more of a bittersweet. We was happy that we got to the bottom of it. You still had questions.
The biggest question for law enforcement and Letitia's family is the same. Where is Letitia's body?
The dumpster where they put the body is in the rear of the apartment where they were.
We track it to a landfill. By now, 5 months in, that landfill is a mountain of like 70 feet tall. There was no guarantee that the evidence would still be intact, so command decision was made that we wouldn't unearth the mountain to look for the body.
It was hard. It was hard that I ain't had no body for her. And, you know, I couldn't put her in the ground the way I wanted to do.
For prosecutors seeking 6 convictions in connection with Letitia's death, not having a body is a major obstacle.
It's very unusual to have cases that go to trial where you do not have the victim's body. All you have is people testifying about what happened.
By the spring of 2013, 5 of the 6 friends who stand accused of being responsible for the death of 18-year-old Letitia Frazier have taken plea deals. Brian Gaither receives the longest sentence.
It was believed that the chokehold that Brian Gaither put Letitia in at the end of this was what ultimately caused her final demise.
Gaither started that he was going to go to trial, and he pled guilty. Gaither was sentenced to 32 years.
Anika Nelson pled guilty to second-degree murder and kidnapping, received a sentence of 18 years. Cynthia Proctor, who was pregnant at the time, admitted in her plea to attempted dismemberment and beating Letitia. She received a sentence of 21 years. Kamal Hassan, who also pled guilty, received a sentence for kidnapping and second-degree murder and received 18 years in prison for his role. Lene Bell, who was the least culpable of this group, pled guilty and received a sentence of 3 years in jail. That jail term was suspended, and she served 2 years of probation.
Johnny Sweet, the alleged ringleader, takes his chances at trial in April 2013. Lene Bell is the star witness against him.
Lene was an interesting character in that, although she was there and admitted to being there, she did not really want to participate in what was going on. She was, in her words, goaded into doing something to Letitia.
We didn't know all of what happened until the court. And then that's when Lene Bell put it all on the line. The girls were punching all on Letitia, and at a particular point, Lene Bell had told them to stop. And when that occurred, that's when Johnny got involved. He continued to hit on her, and when she fell to the floor, he's stomping on her, and he just continued over and over. Lene Bell was up there testifying. Everybody was crying. The whole courtroom was in tears. It was so sad, and it was hurtful to hear. Nobody just stepped up to stop.
They beat her up, tied her up, duct tape her, tried to amputate her.
Prosecutors say there is no evidence that Letitia stole anything from Johnny.
The police looked for that $900 and any link to Letitia. There was no connection whatsoever. And in fact, Letitia was the only one of the group who actually had a job and was getting up and going to work every day to support her 3-year-old child.
Prosecutors don't have a body, but they are able to present powerful evidence.
They found the blood in the house, and they cut out the certain pieces of carpet that they found with blood on it.
The comparison is done between the blood that's recovered and the DNA that's obtained from the family members.
The DNA is a match to Letitia. Johnny's attorneys claim that Brian, not Johnny, was the ringleader and the killer.
Brian Gaither goes in there and put her in some type of chokehold that she suffocated. Due to the lack of oxygen, she died.
The jury rejects the defense, finding him guilty of kidnapping and first-degree murder.
Johnny Sweet, who had the harshest sentence, was sentenced to 52 years.
The conviction brings a close to a long and painful journey for Letitia's family. But for Caroline and Barry,